Members of the commission, we're now live.
Good evening and welcome to the May 27, 2026 meeting of the Montgomery County Historic Preservation Commission. My name is Jeffrey Haynes. I am the chair. I will now ask my fellow commissioners and staff to introduce themselves, beginning on my left.
Jonathan Kaplan.
Carly Bond.
Michael Galway.
Mark Dominiani.
Laura Nasser.
Laura DiPasquale, Historic Preservation Staff.
John Lieberts, Historic Preservation Staff.
Rebecca Ballo, Historic Preservation Staff.
Devin Murtha, Historic Preservation Staff.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda this evening are the historic area work permits. Have the work permits been duly advertised?
Yes, Mr. Chair, they were advertised in the May 13th edition of the Washington Times.
Thank you. If anyone is here to testify for any of the cases, please give a speaker form to staff, and they will let us know that you are here to address one of the cases. We're going to begin tonight by expediting the cases we believe can be expedited based on the staff reports. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of case 1A at 7211 Holly Avenue, Tacoma Park? Case 1B at 14 Hickory Avenue, Tacoma Park. Case 1C at 30 Pine Avenue, Tacoma Park. Case 1D at 7204 Holly Avenue, Tacoma Park. Case 1E at 10408 Montgomery Avenue, Kensington. Case 1F at 11810 Darnestown Road, Gaithersburg. Case 1G at 6704 Westmoreland Avenue, Tacoma Park. Case 1H at 17 West Irving Street, Chevy Chase. Case 1K at 23351 Davis Mill Road, Germantown. And case 1L at 9 East Kirk Street, Chevy Chase.
Mr. Chair, hearing no objections, I move that we approve the following historic area work permits in accordance with the staff reports based upon the record before us, in consideration of the recommendations of local advisory panels and including the conditions recommended by staff. HOP number 1152021 at 7211 Holly Avenue, Tacoma Park. HOP number 1156263 at 14 Hickory Avenue, Tacoma Park. HOP number 1155727 at 30 Pine Avenue, Tacoma Park. HOP number 1128484 revision at 7204 Holly Avenue, Tacoma Park. HOP number 1157859 at 10408 Montgomery Avenue, Kensington. HOP number 1157107 at 11810 Darnestown Road, Gaithersburg. HOP number 1152012 revision at 6704 Westmoreland Avenue, Tacoma Park. HOP number 1064778 revision at 17 West Irving Street, Chevy Chase. HOP number 1145858 at 23351 Davis Mill Road, Germantown. And HOP number 1094901 revision at 9 East Kirk Street, Chevy Chase.
Do I have a second?
This is Commissioner Dominiani. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously, and so those cases are all approved. If you have any questions, you can speak with staff tomorrow during regular business hours. We certainly appreciate your work to preserve your properties and in working with staff to submit easily approvable work permits. The first case we will hear tonight is 1I at 512 Tulip Avenue, Tacoma Park. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, this is Devin Murtha with the staff report. This is HOP review number 1157176 for site work alterations at 512 Tulip Avenue in Tacoma Park. The subject property includes half of a 4-square duplex. It's a contributing resource within the Tacoma Park Historic District and is subject to review under the Tacoma Park Historic District Guidelines, Chapter 24A of the Montgomery County Code, and the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. The applicant proposes to install a new Parge CMU retaining wall measuring 8 feet wide and approximately 25 feet tall with a brick cap, widen the existing driveway by 2 feet to measure a total of 11 feet wide, install a new concrete parking pad that measures 24 feet by 14 feet, and install a new standing seam metal roof to replace the existing standing seam metal roof in kind. And here's the site plan on the right. Here are some photos of the subject property along Tulip Avenue and an aerial view on the right. Here's a historic photo of the subject property. Oh no, here's some more photos. Here's the historic photo of the subject property circa 1990. The subject property is on the left. So the applicant is proposing to install a new retaining wall on the right side of the expanded gravel driveway. There was formerly a retaining wall there, you can see in the 2014 photo. The applicant is also planning to rebuild sections of the brick retaining wall along the street that have failed, as you can see in the photo on the right from 2026. The applicant is proposing to expand the width of the existing driveway by 2 feet to measure 11 feet total and to install a concrete parking pad at the rear. The yellow arrow on the photo indicates the approximate location of the parking pad. Staff finds that there are a number of different driveway widths and materials along the streetscape. In the surrounding blocks, staff found asphalt, brick, concrete, and gravel driveways. Here are a few more examples. These are all within just a couple blocks of the subject property. Staff also found that there are a number of different retaining wall designs and materials, including concrete, brick, stone, and wood. Again, all of these examples are just on the same block or the nearby blocks to the subject property. The applicant also included some in-kind replacement and repair work as part of this application. They are proposing to remove the existing standing seam metal roof on their half of the duplex, as seen in the photo on the top left, and install a new standing seam metal roof. The existing roof has 15-inch wide flat panels with 1-inch tall standing seams, and the proposed roof will have 15-inch wide panels with 1-inch to 1.5-inch standing seams. There'll be no optional rib striations and no ridge cap. Staff notes that the HPC does not typically review in-kind replacements or repair work. This work is not typically subject to HOP review per section 24A6, and that language is just up here. Homeowners are permitted to perform ordinary maintenance and in-kind repairs, although staff does appreciate the submission of specifications in advance to confirm that the proposed materials accurately reflect the nature, texture, dimensions, and details of the building materials as outlined in 24A 040101. Staff notes that this work is also eligible for the Montgomery County Historic Preservation Tax Credit. Staff finds that the proposed site work is compatible with the character of the district per 24A8B and the guidelines. The hardscaping alterations respect the existing environmental setting and pattern of open space per the guidelines. Many of the driveways in the district and along this block contain wide private or shared driveways similar to the proposal. The retaining walls along this block are a mix of many materials, and staff finds that the proposed concrete and brick retaining wall is generally compatible with the character of the resource and the streetscape. Staff finds that the new parking pad is also compatible and will not have a meaningful impact on the district, particularly given its setback from the street. Staff finds that the proposed restoration work is an in-kind replacement that constitutes ordinary maintenance. Staff recommends the HPC approve the HOP application under the criteria for issuance in Chapter 24A81 and 2, having found that the proposal will not substantially alter the exterior features of the historic resource and is compatible in character with the district and purposes of Chapter 24A, the Tacoma Park Historic District guidelines, and the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. And with the general condition that final project details, not specifically delineated by the commission, shall be approved by HPC staff or brought back to the commission as a revised HOP application at staff's discretion. That's the end of the presentation, and I can take any questions at this point.
Do the commissioners have any questions for staff? There appears to be no questions for staff. Thank you. Thank you. If not, I will ask the applicant to come forward and make a brief presentation. I have Hunter Smith and Zorka Millen. Well, hang on a minute, hang on. Well, hang on, we're gonna get to you in a minute. We're gonna let the applicant talk first, and then you'll get the talk second. Thank you. So, state your name for the record and your association with the
Hi,
project.
my name is Zorka Mellon. I'm co-owner of the property with my husband, Hunter Smith.
My name is Eric Saul, and I'm the architect for the project.
So you would have 7 minutes to make a presentation or ask questions.
We agree with the staff report that, as she explained, we're making necessary repairs for, maintenance reasons to the roof, which was actually recommended by our home insurance company. They requested that we make these repairs, so they are necessary. The roof is not in great shape. As for the parking pad, that is also a necessary repair because the ground gets quite muddy, and so it's an inconvenience for us, and we try to do it in a way that is respectful of the historic character of the neighborhood. And then the last thing, the retaining wall, yes, that also obviously has to be repaired, so all of these are necessary repairs.
Thank you, very good. Are there any questions for the applicant? I have one. The driveway, you are increasing the width of the driveway, but if I understand from the site plan, it basically aligns with the curb cut. You're not modifying the existing curb cut.
Correct. It's everything on the property will be just moved back like a foot or two.
And so the retaining wall will simply get carved into the bank that is there.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Kaplan.
Yeah, just for clarification, so the plan is to restore the brick to the street-facing part of the retaining wall, and then have, at the corner, it turns to concrete along the driveway?
Correct.
Okay, and are you paving the driveway, or you're just widening it and leaving it as it is? It seems like it's kind of gravel right now.
No, it's sort of a dirt road now, so that's, as I said, it gets quite muddy, and we are putting in a pad that is set back, as the staff explained, would be set back from the sidewalk, and I forget the exact dimensions, you know that better.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, the concrete part is in the back. That's 12 by 24, whatever written on there. And then it'll just be gravel, the front part.
Okay, got it. Okay, thanks.
Okay. If there are no other questions for the applicant, I will ask Mr. Lawrence Silberman to come forward.
Thank you.
Do they leave?
Yes.
Thank you.
He gets 3 minutes.
So please have a seat.
Good evening.
Yep.
I'm Lawrence Silberman.
Okay, please have a seat.
I am,
Sir, I'm sorry, can we get your name one more time? Can you please press the button on the microphone till it turns green?
thank you very much.
Yep.
Lawrence Silberman.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I own 514 Tulip. I used to own 512. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in this room that's been on the roofs of both properties more than 20 times. Okay. First, I'd like to thank Devin Mutha for all the help they gave me the other day. I had gotten back from an optometrist appointment and was unable to read almost anything. I only just heard about these proposals on Saturday. I never had anything mailed to me. Notice that this meeting was mailed to my tenants at 514 Tulip, and they didn't really think it was anything important, so they didn't tell me. So I was over there repairing a microwave oven, and there we are. There should be, in the future, a system where applicants have to provide proof of service to adjacent property owners. A certificate of mailing and proof of service is inexpensive and something attorneys do all the time. The owners of 512 are barristers and can read and follow instructions. They were to have mailed me the information. I only found about this Saturday by accident and received no answer when I asked via text why the information wasn't sent to me. I never heard from the architect and can only speculate on their motives for not informing me. They failed to mention in their application that the tree in front of the house is going to have to go too. That's just one more tree they've killed. If you take a look at the pictures, you'll see that at Pepco's direction, a pine got whacked in half, probably about 15 feet up. It was really pretty 30-foot pine. And now looks like it's going to be dead at the end of this growing season. Now, the driveway is not a problem, but permeability on a small lot may be. There are a number of permeable options for parking that have a long track record of success. They allow the recharging of the groundwater, mitigation of flooding, diversion of stormwater from an overtaxed age system, and may keep the surface cooler during the summertime due to evaporative cooling. They're comparable in cost to concrete and much prettier. And in addition, the owners would save money on their stormwater fee, which is done by the foot. I'd like a drawing of the retaining wall and cap. An 8-inch block wall may not meet code. The block walls I've laid in DC, anyway, they wouldn't let us go more than 2 feet high with 8 inches. So that's between them and EPA. If the brick from the front wasn't saved.
Sir, we have to wrap it up, sir.
Okay. Now, if the brick from the front wasn't saved, patching into that existing brick wall is going to be a hash. I didn't see any saved brick. I'm opposed to the roof replacement at this time. My tenants have children who would be susceptible to lead poisoning. That roof is in excess of 75 years old. Metal's loaded with lead paint top and bottom, as is the wood trim. If you go into the attic of either house, because they have what is called skip sheathing, you can see the red lead on the bottom of the metal. I've been on that roof probably over 50 times over the years. It can be patched to hold up. A competent mechanic and helper could do it in a day and save them considerable money. Standing seam roof contractors who are certified lead remediation professionals conversant with fall protection standards are few and far between. The last lead abatement contractor they had working in their house was lacking in the job he did and the protection offered his crews and people who were outside of the house. I ended up cleaning up my front porch with TSP because of contamination before I had to have a lead-based paint test, as a landlord has to have on every single turnover, unless they can show that they have professionals who are qualified and there's a insurance policy that will hold me harmless. I'm opposed to that. I'm opposed, well, whatever.
Push the button, so there you go.
Okay, I'm opposed to that.
Please
A
wrap
long
up,
time-
sir. You have to please wrap up now. You're over your time limit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for the applicant? I have a question. So you mentioned stormwater and permeable pavers.
Yes, sir.
You understand, if I understand from the applicant, he is planning to do stone from the sidewalk back to the parking pad itself. Did you understand that?
Yes,
And does that satisfy your concern for stormwater runoff? That's fairly good distance of
no, it's
permeable.
the concrete pad that could be done as a permeable surface, sir.
That's true too, but they're offering to do the drive from the sidewalk to the pad as stone.
That's what it is now, sir. Like maybe a number 2 gravel.
So I think that is a reasonable solution to control runoff. I think maybe they'll be wanting to do permeable pavers. We could certainly ask them that, but I think they've made an attempt to mitigate stormwater.
You're talking about 400 feet of concrete on a very small lot.
Yeah, well, there are a lot larger driveways in the neighborhood. You just walk down the street, they're much wider driveways. So I think it's a reasonable request. And we can certainly ask if permeable pavers would be suitable for them. In terms of the retaining wall, I think that's an engineering, a reinforced, 8-inch reinforced. It's not a very tall wall. Would certainly be capable of retaining that earth. I would not be so concerned about the brickwork, as there's probably suppliers that can, if they don't have the brick, they can find a very close match in that. I've done it many times as an architect.
How many cubes of brick have you laid, sir?
Well, I can't say that I've laid cubes of brick, but that's not the point. The point is I've matched 50-year-old brick pretty darn close. So I think as long as they can find the brick that's in the right size and texture and color, that they should be able to rebuild that successfully. Sure. Go ahead. Commissioner Galway.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Galway. First of all, thank you for your testimony. I think we have to be very careful, being a historical area work permit, and a lot of the things that you brought up, the lead, the concern with permeability, the ability to create that wall and how that was done, most of those things are not in our purview. And really, so just please let me finish. So I think it's important for you to understand that what we're here to do is to talk about the historical character of what is being done. And so I think when it comes to whether the sidewalk is permeable or not, I don't know that that's something we would comment on. I think whether or not the wall was built correctly structurally is probably not something that as this commission would really have a lot of input for you. The issue with the lead and the proper installation or removal of the materials, again, that is something that hopefully is being addressed through the permitting through the building permitting process. I think one of the things that would concern me, you brought up about the wall, making sure that it is done appropriately, that the brick does match. If they haven't saved the brick, it's not the end of the world. In fact, we can't bring it back. But it would be absolutely imperative that the brick itself match the existing brick. We certainly wouldn't want to drive up and see old brick and then clearly be able to delineate that with the new brick. So I'm on board with that comment. But I think a lot of the things that you may be concerned about and may very well be valid concerns is really not something for this commission to rule on. I hope you understand that.
You had a paragraph that said you were about protecting the environment in your approval process, and dealing with stormwater management is protecting the environment, sir.
Well, you're absolutely right. It is protecting the environment, but at the same time, we cannot overstep our bounds. It is a building permit issue, and we would support that. If the owner came in and said we wanted to improve the permeability, I don't think there's anyone in this commission who would say from a historical perspective that I don't know that that would impact our ruling one way or the other. We may encourage it, but we cannot say that it's necessary. We would not actually, as a commission, indicate that that had to be done. That's really more of a conversation worth having with the owner. It's really not even a permit issue that I know of, so it's just not something that we would comment on.
Could you at least ask for a drawing of the brick wall, please?
I don't know, it's something we
And
could take
Captain-
under advisement. Thank you.
I would venture to say that as part of the permit submission, that there'd have to be some indication of the construction of that retaining wall. So that's, a drawing would be produced for permitting purposes. What's your concern about the wall?
Well, it's really hard to match old brick. I've done that, and most of the time, people are not satisfied. And how your soldiers are laid up, whether or not they're drunken soldiers at the top of the wall like you have now, and how you're gonna tie that brick wall into block and make it look pretty.
Those are certainly concerns for the mason, but that level of detail is not in the scope of our work that we do here. So, are there any other questions for the If not, we are going to, and we appreciate your coming in and talking to us. Thank you. We'll certainly talk to staff about how we advertise our applications in the future and assure that neighbors are receiving the advertisements. I can't address the roof issue because I don't have knowledge of what the components are of the roof in terms of, I haven't been up there, so I can't claim to know if there's lead or not. I would assume that, or believe that the permit process would require them to illustrate if there is lead, then how would they abate the lead when they remove the roof material? So that's, again, all, I believe, in the permitting services purview.
Does Montgomery County require a permit for replacing a roof in kind?
This is Rebecca Ballo with the staff. Again, the Department of Permitting Services requirements are separate from the purview of the Historic Preservation Commission. We can certainly give you the website for DPS if you have questions about what other permits might be required for this submission.
That's correct, whether or not you have to file a permit with,
Again, sir, I can't answer that question. I don't work for the Department of Permitting Services, and neither does the commission. So I would direct you to their website if you have questions about other permits that are required for this work.
very well.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. So we're going to close the conversation, and we are going to vote on this application. Does anybody care to make a motion? Commissioner Galway.
This is Commissioner Galway. I move that the Historic Preservation Commission, in accordance with the standards set forth in Section 24A of the Montgomery County Code, approve HOP number 1157176 at 512 Tulip Avenue, Tacoma Park, based on the staff recommendations for the HPC to approve this HOP application with their recommendations.
Do I hear a second?
This is Commissioner Nasser, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Hearing none, this motion passes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to preliminary consultations. The first case we will hear is 2A at 23356 Frederick Road, Clarksburg. Do we have a staff report?
This is Laura with the staff. Give me one moment while I pull up the presentation. Right. This is a preliminary consultation review for 23356 Frederick Road, Clarksburg. The property features a circa 1940s Cape Cod house and is listed as a non-contributing resource in the Clarksburg Historic District. The project is subject to review under the Vision of Clarksburg, Chapter 24A of the Montgomery County Code, and the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. The property is located in the historic core of the district between Spire Street and Clarksburg Road. A few existing conditions, photos of the property. The existing house appears as 1.5 stories from the front and 2.5 stories from the rear, owing to changes in grade, which falls both from left to right when viewing the property from the front and front to back along the property. For this preliminary consultation, the applicants seek feedback on a proposal that would ostensibly function as infill construction in the district. The applicants propose to substantially demolish the existing structure, maintaining portions of the rear and side walls, extend the foundation and building footprint forward approximately 12 feet, and construct a 2-story addition with an elevated and occupied basement level. This would result in a building that is 44 feet 9 inches wide by 40 feet deep, with a total height of approximately 41 feet from the lower level to the roof peak. The upper floors of the building would provide multifamily housing, while the lower level would be occupied by a commercial space. As part of the redevelopment of the site, the applicants also proposed to demolish an existing garage or shed building and to create a 20-foot wide paved driveway leading to a rear parking area, behind which would be located a new bioretention pond and associated stormwater management facilities. Here's the proposed site plan showing the proposed footprint and site work in relationship to the neighboring historic properties. More detailed site plan, existing floor plans with the demolition work shaded in gray. Proposed first and second floor plans, proposed front elevation, the left or southeast side elevation drawing and rendering, and an existing condition photo from the public right-of-way, the right or northwest side elevation and existing condition photo from the driveway, and the existing rear elevation photo and proposed rear elevation drawings. Again, the front elevation and a bird's eye view of the property for some context. And from street level, the existing house is set back here. I'm looking towards the center of the Clarksburg historic core, some of the other historic houses on the southeast side of Frederick Road and the northwest side of Frederick Road as well. New construction approved by the HPC in 2011. Staff supports the overall concept of the proposal, namely the substantial demolition of the non-contributing resource and construction for new infill housing and commercial, but recommends substantial changes to the project design. As a non-contributing resource, staff finds that the substantial alteration or complete demolition of the existing house and shed does not remove historic materials that characterize the property in keeping with standards 2 and 9, and Chapter 24A8B1 and D. Staff further finds that the overall expanded building footprint of 44 feet 9 inches wide by 40 feet deep and resulting building setbacks are consistent with the footprint and setbacks of buildings in the Clarksburg Historic District. Staff finds that the proposed setback of 26 to 32 feet from the public right-of-way is consistent with or greater than neighboring historic properties. Staff also finds that since the proposed construction does not modify the width of the existing house, it maintains the rhythm and spacing between buildings identified in the vision as one of the character-defining features of the Clarksburg Historic District. And additionally, staff finds that the proposed simple gable roof form is likewise consistent with the district per the vision. Staff's primary concern is with the compatibility of the proposed building height, features, and materials within the district. The applicants identify the total proposed building height as 34 feet 3 inches from primary grade and 37 feet 10 inches from lower grade, plus an additional approximately 3.5 feet to the lower level grade, bringing the total height to approximately 41 feet. Staff notes that the elevation drawings do not fully depict the existing topography, rendering the sloped grade changes as straight horizontal lines, and that absent a streetscape study, it is difficult to fully understand the relationship of the building height relative to the existing topography and neighboring historic buildings. However, based on the current information provided, staff finds that the proposal elevates the first floor level 3.5 feet or so above the current first floor level to approximately 5.5 feet from primary grade. This is largely driven by the proposed 12-foot floor-to-floor height from the lower level to the first floor level. For the upper floors, the applicants propose a 10-foot floor-to-floor height, and for the first floor, and a 9-foot floor-to-floor height for the second floor level. Using a vertical measurement tool in Connect Explorer and recent architectural drawings for the existing house at 23345 Frederick Road and approved but not yet constructed infill building at 23343 Frederick Road, staff was able to compile some approximate dimensions of the property's nearest neighbors shown in this chart. Staff finds that most buildings in the district are relatively low to the ground with limited exposed foundations and 1 to 5 steps leading to the front entries as opposed to the proposed 9, and that the average building height in the district is around 25 to 30 feet from grade, with the nearest neighbors on the lower end of that range. From the front grade to the front eave, the proposed construction would be approximately 25.5 feet to the flanking buildings 17 to 18 feet. The full proposed 41-foot height of the right side elevation would be visible from the public right-of-way along Frederick Road. Staff notes that the HPC approved new construction at 23347 Frederick Road in 2024, and that the approved height, 4.3, this should be 4.3. Approved height for the infill building on that site was 27 feet 10 inches from the first floor level to the roof peak, plus a 3-foot 2-inch elevated foundation level for a total overall height of 31 feet. To better demonstrate the height and context of the proposed construction, staff recommends that the applicants submit a streetscape study illustrating the relationship of the proposal to the existing buildings, neighboring buildings, while also accurately accounting for any proposed grading on site so the HPC can fully understand how the proposed construction will fit in the district. Staff recommends that the applicants reduce the overall height to a maximum of 31 feet above grade, reducing all floor-to-floor heights, and particularly lowering the height of the elevated basement level so that no more than 2 to 3 steps are necessary to access the front door from grade. Staff notes that much of the proposed height appears to be driven by the height of the lower level commercial space, and that while the HPC is agnostic to building use, the design of buildings must be compatible with the district regardless of the use. Narrowing in on the architectural expression of the building, staff finds that the prominence of the elevated foundation is exacerbated by the proposed long and narrow stair runs and landings leading to the 2 first-floor entries. Staff finds that per the vision, properties in Clarksburg are characterized by wide front porches that typically extend the full width of the facade with a singular front door. Staff recommends that the applicants create a full-width front porch, which could be divided in the center to separate the units. At the second floor level, staff finds that the proposed doors, balconies, and small windows are likewise out of keeping with the regularized rhythm of fenestration found on buildings in the district. Staff recommends eliminating the balconies and creating consistent, full-sized punched window openings along the second floor facade. Regarding materials, per the vision, the dominant building material in Clarksburg is wood clapboard or weatherboard. Staff finds the proposed thin brick cladding of the front facade is incompatible with the district and recommends that the front elevation above the foundation level be clad in horizontal wood or fiber cement lap siding, such as the hardy lap siding proposed on the side elevations. Staff also finds the amount of uninterrupted siding on the side elevations is out of keeping with the character of the district and recommends the side gable ends be differentiated through a material change, use of a bandboard, or installation of gable end windows or louvered openings to reduce the amount of uninterrupted siding presented on the side elevations. Staff recommends that additional details regarding window and door reveals, trim details, and other features be submitted for a future preliminary consultation. In addition to the building alterations, the applicants propose a new paved driveway with a parking area at the rear. New segmental block retaining walls would be added along the sides of the driveway owing to the changes in grade. Staff finds that while the proposal widens the existing driveway by a few feet, it does not introduce a new curb cut and will have a limited impact on the historic district in keeping with Chapter 24A 8B1. Staff finds that much of the proposed parking will be located behind the existing or proposed building, and that owing to the grade changes will be limited in view from the public right-of-way. Staff notes that a proposed dumpster would be located at the end of the driveway before it turns behind the building for the parking area, and that this dumpster should be screened with fencing to be reviewed at the next preliminary consultation. Behind the parking at the rear of the parcel, the applicants propose to construct a new bioretention pond. Staff finds that this area will have limited visibility from the public right-of-way, but seeks additional information on the requirements and associated landscaping. In summary, staff supports the overall project footprint, setbacks, and form, but finds that the project's height and architectural expression are incompatible with the requirements for the Clarksburg Historic District. And for this review, staff requests HPC feedback on the appropriateness of the scale, height, and massing of the proposed additions, the appropriateness of the proposed building design, the appropriateness of the proposed hardscaping and site work, and any other comments you might have. Our staff would recommend for the next submission for a second preliminary consultation that the applicants submit additional materials, included updated architectural plans and elevations, streetscape drawings or renderings showing the topography and relationship of the proposed building to the adjacent historic properties, updated material specifications, detail drawings, trash enclosure screening details, and additional information on the proposed stormwater BMPs and associated landscaping. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do the commissioners have any questions for staff? Commissioner Galway.
This is Commissioner Galway. Just to confirm, that shed's gone. It looks like on the demo plan that's being wiped out. Okay. And I know it's in here somewhere, and you mentioned it. Can you repeat the difference between this current setback of the existing building versus the proposed? How far back is it going to be?
Let's see, so their new proposal is, believe it's 26 feet setback to the kind of closer front edge here, and 32. It projects 12 feet from the existing building, so I guess the existing setbacks would be
Somewhere between 26 and 32 then?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't, that's all right as far as it's further than that now, the existing. And how does that relate to the distances of the setbacks for the adjacent homes, the historic properties in the neighborhood, or?
It's still set back from those. The
Okay.
neighboring properties are pretty close to the street. You can kind of see here. And the new facade would essentially align with the existing stairs coming up from the
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Site plan here, so it would be about there.
All right, and then one last question. Were you able to find, or is there anything available about the history of the existing plat, whether there was potentially remains or anything that could be there from previous homes or construction?
Not that I found. I don't believe there was any kind of archaeological association with this person. And the lot is not platted.
Okay, all right, very good, thanks.
Any other questions for staff? Apparently not. So we will ask the applicant to come up. We have Harshad Pashtawala and Lynette Brunson. Did I get, sorry. Please have a seat, turn the mic on to green,
Good evening.
and introduce yourself, get your name and your relationship to the project.
Yeah, my name is Harshad Postiwala. I am the owner of the property, 23356 Frederick Road, Clarksburg, Maryland, 20871.
Okay,
My name is Lynette Brunson. I am the architect from Brunson Designs.
thank you. You'll have 7 minutes to make a presentation, or we can ask you questions.
I think the presentation is already been done, so thank you very much, Laura, for doing that. And we are trying to rejuvenate the area and trying to add value in this area. So the proposed plan is pretty much have a small commercial in the basement and 2 levels of the multi-family apartments. And that's what we are trying to do over there. And based on our plans, like we also check with the county that we are not exceeding any setbacks on the height of the building, as well as like on the rear or front or side setbacks. So we already got green light from that, and we have a communication from them that as long as we don't exceed the setbacks, we should be okay within the limit. And based on that, those facts only, we have designed this building. And I totally understand like the facade, the elevation and the material that we selected. I was going off the 23321 Frederick Road, which is next to the building that Ms. Laura suggested. There is an animal hospital that has like a no front pillar kind of situation. I don't know the exact terminology, so pardon me for that. And also they have like a brick elevation. And I thought like historical looks much better in brick. So that's but I'm not married to that, so we are open to change that if needed. And that's pretty much it, I think, from my end.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for reviewing everything. I do have a question. So we spoke with Laura in regards to adding a front porch across the facade. If a porch was introduced, would that give us any leniency for the height? Because now it would propose a presence that looks similar to the other buildings, even though it'll be a bit taller. Could we meet in the middle of that 30 foot 10 inches if a left to right porch was presented? Or are we hard on the 30 foot 10? I only ask, I mean, we can bring some down for the lower level, but having, we would be confined to 8 foot ceilings in these apartments, and most apartments nowadays are taller ceilings than 8 foot ceilings. So we're trying to be in kind with what people would be interested in, is why we increase the heights.
To add to that point, I think another part to consider here is like the commercial space is pretty much on the back of the property. Like it doesn't actually like the entrance or anything doesn't fall on the front of the road at all. So everything is on the back. So when I check with the county about the building height, so that should not impact, because it also impacts the operation of how the commercial space is going to be used if I reduce the height by like significant amount. And so we have done a lot of math and a lot of consultation before we approach this, and I wasn't aware of like pretty much the bottom line is that as long as like stay within the setbacks limit of that county allows, then we should be okay. So that was the guidance that we were following. And now I'm not sure like the height that we are currently measuring is from the ground, like from the the basement, which is on the back side of the property, or we are measuring from the front of the property, which is like 2 different elevations altogether. So because the basement is almost like a 10 feet down from the main level, So that should not impact, like, we are not going like 12 feet from actual current height. We are just going like 4 or 5 feet above where we are currently, if that helps.
Well, to answer the first question, it depends. So we can't say without seeing an actual design. And before we start discussion, just want to make sure there's not any more questions for the applicant. Okay, we have Zara.
I actually have two questions. What's the commercial use that you're envisioning?
We are going to have like a small cafe. Like
Cafe?
yeah, small cafe over there.
And what's the pitch of the roof right now? What's the slope?
Pitch of
So the existing pitch of the roof is currently between 312 and 412.
Okay, all right,
And then it sheds off the back. There's a back dormer that sheds off of that.
all right. Thank you.
Commissioner Dominiani.
It's a related question, but did you have a minimum ceiling height in mind for a use like cafe?
Yeah, that is what I'm going for, like, because I had like plans for like some advertising board and also like some other stuff that I'm going to use over there. And also like in the HVAC system itself, like if I'm going to conduit around, then it's gonna bring the ceiling down furthermore. So that is what like one of the major design criteria that we had to consider. And that's how we came up with this height.
In that commercial area, you were imagining to be the full width of the building in that whole downstairs, lower level area?
Yeah, you can say like one part is a kitchen and one part is like serving area. So it's like one level, you can say that, but it's pretty much under the ground, you can say.
All right, I was trying to imagine in my head how we can bring that ceiling down a little bit to buy you a bit of room on top.
Yeah.
But understanding what your
Yeah.
sort of minimum ceiling height that could be acceptable for such a use is helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Commissioner Bond.
How about signage on the street side for the commercial space?
We are gonna follow whatever you guys say. We are not like, I'm not gonna like put any like Zazie or like what you call it, whatever he's like. There is a next door, there is another cafe called K2 Cafe, and there is a gas station, and there is a tavern. There are 3 restaurants, so we are gonna follow whatever the compliant with the historic district or conservation area. So we are not going to advertise too big on that. It's gonna be like very cozy, community kind of environment. That's what we are trying to create there.
Okay, so we need information for that for next time.
Yeah, sure.
Would they have to apply for a separate hop for signage?
This is Rebecca Ballo for the record. Yes, they would have to apply for another hop for signage. Just for the commissioner's information, some of the images that Laura showed in the presentation are also commercial buildings within the historic district. You know, there are many commercial establishments within Clarksburg that are easily accommodated within the historic district design guidelines, and we don't regulate use per se. What we regulate is architectural compatibility, and that obviously comes first. The use can't drive something that is architecturally incompatible. So to that sense, we do not have basement level commercial uses within the district, probably for many reasons. They're kind of challenging spaces to market and to use, but we do have very successful commercial spaces in the district that exist typically on the first floor of the buildings where they are. So they would need a separate hop for any signage, just like the other commercial buildings do.
Thank you for that. Other thoughts? I have one. The photos seem to suggest that the grade is sloping down from street to the back of the property.
Yeah.
Yes? So why can't you just lower the building down and excavate out and push that dirt downhill and put a nice level terrace out there for your coffee?
No, that would also, I think, create the like subdivision process altogether. The moment I start hitting the boundaries and go above that certain, like if I try to open anything beyond like a 1,900 square feet of like existing building, then I will have to like get into subdivision or record plating process, which is like 2 years long. And we have already been wasted on like, we have been sitting on this property for 1.5 years without any like concrete movement on like, so that's why like we are not planning to do that.
So you don't want to do stormwater management?
No, we are doing stormwater management.
I kind of didn't catch what the reason why you can't lower the grade.
I didn't understand, like,
Th-
sorry.
This is Rebecca
he's
Ballo,
meaning
again, for the
to-
record. The lot is unplatted. So the reason, for example, that the applicant is not demolishing the entire building and starting new is because if they were to do that, then they have to plat the lot. And they have to go through an administrative subdivision process with the planning board. So there are a lot of additional requirements that come around. So they're trying to, they are creatively approaching this so that they do not have to plat the lot.
Got it.
So there is nothing in terms of site restrictions.
Got it.
It's the administrative burden that they're trying to avoid, is my understanding.
Yes, that is correct, like.
Okay, thank you.
Got it. Thank you for that
Thank you very much.
explanation.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Commissioner Dominiani.
I have another question for you.
Yeah, I'll invite you for lunch for sure, once I'm ready with the cafe.
This is a question about the front of the building. So you've heard some of the comments about, and we're going to, I think, go into a broader deliberation about front porches and things like that. But in the drawings, it wasn't clear to me how you might be connecting that building, the front of the building, those front entrances, the sidewalk, the front stairs to the street, if at all. I know that some of your neighbors have smaller front porches a bit closer to the road that are connected directly even to parking right along Frederick Road. So anyway, the drawing didn't show that to me, so I was hoping maybe you could describe, if the drawing's not accurate, how you planned.
Yes, the current, like, the lot, basically the property is like way behind the current front road. Like, all the properties on this line are pretty much very adjacent to the main road, like around 8 to 10 feet. And this property is, unfortunately, you can call it, it's around like 40 feet behind already. So even if we bring like a 12-feet front, so we are still like around like 30 feet of space over there. So that is more than sufficient. And then after, we already have planned like circulation for traffic and also like parking on the side that you can already see there is a dedicated parking slot that goes on the behind. So that is how we are planning to circulate.
Right, so they'd circulate from the back then. Circulating from the back then up towards those front stairs versus connecting from the road directly.
So you would come up the driveway, and then there would be a walkway to those, if you go back to the elevation, the two entrances there would have a walkway in front of them to enter into those two doors.
Okay, so the drawing a few slides back is accurate as shown?
Yeah.
Okay, to your vision. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think on this drawing, you can clearly see that, like, sorry, the previous one. Yeah, on the front, like, the stairs are connecting to those two sideways, and then after, from the behind, there is a parking. So yeah, so when somebody can park on the back and then walk upstairs and go also on the front if needed. But all the entries for the multifamily are from the back. So they don't come, if they, basically, yeah, the front is for just ease of access, you can say that.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no further questions, then we will discuss and give you our thoughts. I'll kind of kick it off. You mentioned that you've met with the zoning folks and you're, meeting height requirements by zoning.
Yes.
And while, yes, technically you've met those requirements, the way the commission views how a building integrates into a historic district a little differently, and that considers, kind of the massing, scale, height of the building. And what the comments by the staff has made suggests that we are looking to find that happy medium where your building is a good neighbor to the adjacent neighbors and fits in a sympathetic way to the overall streetscape and the historic context of Clarksburg and particularly the streetscape. So at the moment, the design will feel like very different. In that, there's doing brick across the front facade, but then converting to siding. We don't see a lot of that in the historic district. We'll see it out in the newer developments, but that's a detail example. I think massing-wise, the main floor level is not 5 feet up. It's closer to the ground. So maybe we can look to shave, you know, some inches off each floor to get that down. So I think all the comments that you've heard, I kind of do support that the design, at least in terms of its massing, its height, needs to be more integral to the broader streetscape and adjacent structures. Precisely how you do that is probably going to be through a number of ways. Adding elements like a front porch is going to be one that'll help mitigate perceived height. And that particular element we see on other buildings on the street. And so that begins to integrate the structure into the streetscape. I would like to see the ridge brought down in a way, maybe the top floor. I don't think anybody would not rent the top floor if it wasn't a strictly flat roof throughout the entire apartment up there. So bring the roof down a little bit. It's okay. It actually shapes the ceiling when the roof line comes down below the finished ceiling height. That's a way to lower your perceived ridge line and yet still sculpt the rooms on that second floor. Other comments? I don't want me to steal the commentary here. Commissioner Dominiani.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. I think we want to also just express gratitude again for coming in and coming through multiple preliminaries. It's obvious that you want to build something fresh that is honoring the historic landscape as we've talked about. I think some other strategies that we've come up that we sometimes see other applicants who bring a successful hop forward do include that streetscape picture to understand how the massing of this building will fit in with its neighbors. And also sometimes a larger street plan too, showing the distance from the road of your building compared to your neighbors. That can help us understand. An idea as well with the front porch all the way across. I noted that you, in the way that you have the bay set up, it's window, front door, window, window, front door, window. Other buildings that don't have a full width porch all the way across might bring both doors towards the center. So window, window, door, door, window, window in terms of the bays across. And it looked like your floor plans for the proposed apartments there might be able to accommodate such a thing. It's a way as well, I know, to match some of the other houses that are now partially commercial in the district that have a partial porch across the front. Again, can break the massing up if you don't want to do a full width. A couple of ideas maybe that can help. I know that there was concern too about the overall height of the, I think, right side elevation of the building as that slope is graded away, and how the total height kind of from that basement or like the driveway level all the way up to that high roof line might be. I think there are like details that we can add to maybe break that massing up. I know we talked about the total roof height, but there could be other details you had looked at, porch roofs or other balconies, things like that, that could break the massing up and shorten the perceived height anyway of that, even if the overall number of the height isn't any lower. I would think too about how you're going to connect, if there's going to be the commercial space in the back, again, just connecting for a pedestrian to the front, to the road as well. I know you talked about coming down the driveway, but it could be some of the other buildings in the historic district are connected a little bit towards the street. I know you're set back a bit further, but something to think about. I think that's all I can add for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nazar.
I mean, the fellow commissioners already mentioned everything, and also the staff report, I think, is very complete. I just wanted to emphasize on the material. I think the brick is out of character, and at the end of the day, it's all about perception, and a lighter material would change even the height of the building, not physically, but the changes the perception. And adding the porch would break up that very tall wall that goes from your basement all the way to the second floor. And doing the streetscape, if the land is sloping back, it would definitely help your argument. I think when we see this streetscape, it might be not as, like, when we see numbers, it's different than when you just actually put the building on the slope, and it might look different. So please bring that next time. And I guess the rest, others mentioned them, and I agree with those comments.
Commissioner Galway.
This is Commissioner Galway. First of all, I love the idea of having the retail and then having housing. I think it's something that Clarksburg can certainly benefit from, so I support that. None of us has said anything, but I think from my perspective, it's okay to lose the existing non-contributing resource. When you were talking about keeping the back wall, I'm like, why in the world would you? And then that was answered because of there having not been platted, so that cleared that up for me. I think the discussion about the heights, you're saying, is there any room for lowering, not lowering it as much, but maintaining something higher than their other houses. And it really all has to do with where it sits, and the number of commissioners mentioned it, the relative height and massing of the building versus the other buildings on either side. And let me use an example. If it sat right at the same plane as the other structures, 41 feet, there isn't a prayer that I think the commission would say, sure, that's fine. On the flip side, if it sat back a quarter mile, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because what we're trying to figure is, as folks drive through the street and they see, a traditional house, historic home, and then they see something that massing exceeds the rest of the houses, that's where the problem is. So depending on the streetscape, basically it could be a series of photographs, it could be a rendering of the adjacent properties with their heights, and just try to somehow demonstrate how big does this look compared to the other homes or other buildings on either side. If it reads at physically the same massing, it could be taller. But on the other hand, if you're driving along or walking along and all of a sudden you have this ginormous structure in the middle of the traditional homes, that's where we oftentimes have issues, and I would have a hard time with that. I think there's a subtle difference between trying to make this building look old, and we're not suggesting that. It is new. We want it to be new, but we have to be we need to be we have to appreciate it. It has to fit in, And from that standpoint, if you came in with a glass storefront box, again, there is really very little chance that would go anywhere. So,
but that exists. Is it possible? Can we have? Can you pull some drawing over here, like 2321 Frederick Road, next to the one that you shared? That's a Clarksburg Animal Hospital, and that is exactly like they have the glass door in front. And that was approved, so I was surprised. And they also have a brick front on that, very next to it.
Are you talking about the
this
property
one.
here?
Yeah,
This
you
is
see
a
that?
non-contributing resource in the district, and then this is new construction. So
and
this-
how old? That's a post office. How old is that? That's
That was
40s or
that was a mid-1960s
60s, okay.
post office,
Well,
and then the one to the
yeah.
right was new construction from 20 years ago.
Right. And there's no way in the world if that would I can't imagine the commission even allowing something like that. And it will. No, I'll just leave it at that. So I just want to add that really the staff did a great job, and I think follow what they said. I mean, I can't disagree with any of the comments that staff had in terms of materials, in terms of the massing and the streetscape, request for a streetscape. I mean, I think they did a very nice job, and I just so happen to agree with really all of their comments and recommendations. So I would say take a close look at that as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Kaplan.
Hi. Yeah, I want to reiterate what staff and the other commissioners said. Try not to repeat too much, but some things I like, because one challenge is you're coming in and you're introducing kind of a new building type to the historic district, because there's really, with historic buildings, there's really no mixed use what you're doing. There's not a lot of multifamily. And some of the things that do work that I like is that I like how you're kind of tucking away the commercial space into the back. So it's going to read like residential, and how you're putting two of the entrances to the apartments in the back too, because if you look at the houses, there's generally one door per house, and you kind of got it down to two. And there's probably creative ways, like staff was suggesting, to go further to make it look like the other houses. You've heard a lot about the brick versus clapboard. I would take a look at the preservation plan, because there are very specific architecture styles it calls out, federal, colonial, and just kind of look at some of the characteristics. You don't have to, you don't want to replicate these things, but if you look at some of the features and characteristics, and that can give you some ideas to how to design the building architecturally. Everyone's been talking about the height. I agree really with Commissioner Galloway, because generally I wouldn't want to see kind of new construction exceed the height of the tallest two-story houses in the district, and especially the ones next to it. But because you do have a little bit of a setback, you have a little bit extra to play with. But when you come back in, you just really have to give us like a really solid idea of what it's going to look like from the street with renderings and whatnot. Yeah, the only other thing I'd say, and this is a minor point, is I'm a little uncomfortable with the expanding the driveway to that extent. Again, just like with all the other things we're talking about, we don't want it to stand out from the other properties, and I used that Google Map distance thing, so it's not going to be totally accurate, but it seemed like a lot of the driveways in the area are like 13 feet wide, and I think the existing one on your property, it seemed to be between 15 and 18. So I mean, 20 seems like it would kind of stand out. So that's just my other small observation. But yeah, I feel like this could be an exciting project. So yeah, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bond.
I'd just like to emphasize the staff report recommendations on the second floor to remove the balconies and make sure you have equal size window openings on the second floor and the front elevation.
Okay.
Commissioner Nazar.
One quick thing, I know we are not reviewing the interior or not going to judge it, but there are some clever ways to do commercial uses without a finished ceiling. So you can have like an exposed ceiling and drop the ceiling, drop the floor by a foot or so without having a finished ceiling and worrying about to bringing the height down. So maybe look into that as well.
Okay.
That would help you.
Yeah, I get that.
There you have it. So just to
So
kind of,
I'm not gonna remember a lot of these things. So is there a way for us to like summarize some of the things and like, because you guys gave a lot of recommendations. So I'm pretty much sure like I'm a visual person who likes to see the things like and reflect and then after come back. So I think you guys have suggested so many things. So, but I think somebody is gonna take a note of that and provide.
I will write up a summary and send it to you.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll also have a recording of the meeting that I can send to
Okay.
you as well.
yes, they will document everything we've said and provide that to you, and we'll work with you to rework the design, and then we'll see you back for a second preliminary.
Okay, sounds good. And just to reiterate or reconfirm, like for the height point of view, like we have to see the plane, like if the other buildings are at the taller plane and our building is towards the lower plane, and if we are increasing and we are just matching with the adjacent buildings and we are not creating very uneven topography or uneven look in the street, that means we are okay, that we should be okay. So that is the guideline, that's what I'm hearing based on that. So we have to collect more pictures of the neighbors and the street from the elevation or the height point of view. Is that correct?
Correct. We'd like to see a streetscape, whether that's an accurate photo montage or a drawing. We'd like to accurately understand your building height relative to the adjacent building heights.
Okay. All right.
So work
Thank
with
you.
staff. Thank you for coming in,
Thank
and
you very
we
much.
look forward to the next
you very much,
round.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay. We will move on to preliminary number 2B at 24 Columbia Avenue, Tacoma Park. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, we do have a staff report. This is the preliminary consultation for alterations to 24 Columbia Avenue in Tacoma Park, Maryland. The subject property includes a folk Victorian house that was constructed between 1885 to 1900. It's a contributing resource within the Tacoma Park Historic District and is subject to review under the Tacoma Park Historic District Guidelines, Chapter 24A of the Montgomery County Code, and the Secretary of the Interior's Standards for Rehabilitation. The applicant proposes to demolish an existing non-historic one-story rear addition and screened porch, construct a new two-story rear addition and screened porch, and add one new window opening to the right elevation of the historic house. On the left is a Sanborn fire insurance map depicting the property in 1963 with a one-story rear porch and a side addition. And on the right is an aerial photo, a current aerial photo showing the rear porch has been enclosed and a new screened porch has been added to the rear, circa 2008. And here's a historic photo of the subject property in 1990. And some photos of the front and rear of the property today. Here's the property from the right-of-way along Columbia Avenue. The yellow arrow denotes the approximate location of the proposed addition. Per the guidelines, all alterations visible from the right-of-way are subject to review. So first, the applicants are proposing to demolish the one-story rear addition and the rear screened porch. Then they're proposing to construct a new two-story addition with a basement to the rear of the house, shown here in the roof plan and the site plan. So the addition will project 5 feet beyond the historic wall plane on the left elevation. This is the facade. You can see the existing on the left and then the proposed on the right with the 5 feet of the new addition visible. Here's the left elevation, the existing and proposed. The right elevation, and the rear elevation. The new addition will feature a cross-gabled roof clad in asphalt shingles, 2/2 aluminum clad windows, fiber cement lap siding, and a one-story screen porch and a new pressure-treated wood deck. And here are the proposed floor plans. The applicant is also proposing to add a new window opening with 2/2 aluminum clad sash windows to the second story of the right elevation, which is highlighted in yellow here. So moving on to staff findings for the demolition. The rear screened porch was constructed in 2008, and the rear addition was previously a porch that has been heavily modified during its enclosure. Staff finds that it no longer retains sufficient integrity of design and materials. Staff finds that the immediate rear of the property is not at all visible from the public right-of-way, and the guidelines dictate that alterations to features on contributing resources that are not visible at all should be allowed as a matter of course. And staff finds that the proposed demolition will not impact the character of the site and recommends that the HPC approve the partial demolition. Staff is conceptually supportive of the applicant's proposal to construct a rear addition, but finds that the massing, as currently proposed, will overwhelm the small historic house. The overall location of the addition at the rear is generally compatible with the character of the district per the guidelines, but staff finds that it will be highly visible from multiple vantage points due to its overall size and width, contrary to the guidelines. The historic house is approximately 25 feet 5 inches wide and 25 feet 5 inches deep, with a footprint of approximately 646 feet squared, excluding the shed roof addition on the right side and the one-story screened porch on the rear. The proposed addition will be approximately 30 feet 1 inches wide and 34 feet deep, with some carve-outs for the inset and the new screen porch. The total footprint of the new addition, not including the screen porch, will be approximately 869 feet squared, according to staff's rough calculations, which is 134% larger than the existing house. So staff finds the addition will be larger and does not read a subordinate contra standard 9. Additional guidelines in the National Park Service Preservation Brief 14 state that a new addition should not compete in size, scale, or design with the historic building. Staff finds that the proposed width of the house, which extends 5 feet beyond the historic wall plane on the left elevation, is particularly incompatible with the historic character of the resource. The HPC typically requires that rear additions be located completely behind the rear of the house to limit visibility and to lessen the overall visual impact from the street. So the HPC has in the past allowed for additions to be constructed beyond the historic wall plane in certain cases. Staff will run through a few more recent examples, noting that while past cases do not set precedent, they can inform and enhance the HPC's understanding of a compatible design in the district. In 2025, the HPC approved the construction of a one-story addition to 30 Columbia Avenue on the same block as the subject property. The addition projected 7 feet and 6 inches to the left of the historic house. In this case, staff recommended leniency due to the limited visibility of the addition from the right-of-way and the steeply sloped site and the desire to protect a mature tree in the rear yard, and also because of the subordinate one-story massing of the addition. The same year, the HPC approved the construction of a projecting addition at 7314 Maple Avenue with a similar rationale. The addition was also one-story, located primarily off the rear and attached to a non-historic addition. Staff finds that the proposal for this addition on the subject property is markedly different from these two examples and lacks both the site conditions and design elements that would allow for the same kind of leniency. The proposed two-story addition will be the same height as the historic house and will not read as subordinate. Additionally, the house is located on a pretty flat lot, and the addition will be exceptionally visible from the street. Staff finds the treatment of the footprint of the historic house is also not compatible per Chapter 24A8B2. In Tacoma Park, the HBC has generally required that rear additions be inset from the wall plane of the historic house to differentiate the historic house from the new massing. Best preservation practice dictates that, when possible, additions should employ hyphens or insets to preserve the corners of the historic building and ensure that the historic footprint remains legible and distinct. In the past, the HPC has directed that these insets should be 1 foot in order to effectively distinguish the new from the old, although 2 feet is often ideal. In this proposal, the addition to the subject property is not inset at all on the right elevation, but is instead flush with the historic wall plane. Although the new addition will be differentiated from the historic by the roofline and siding, staff is concerned about the loss of the historic footprint end of the corner and finds that the continuous wall plane reads too much like a single volume. On the left elevation, the applicants are proposing a 6-inch inset. Staff finds that this inset does effectively retain the corner. However, it's not large enough to differentiate the old from the new, and it's only a few feet deep, so it doesn't do much to obfuscate the large massing of the addition. Again, the HPC has, in certain instances, allowed for additions to be constructed flush with the wall plane of the historic house. In 2025, the HPC approved a rear second-story addition to 7204 Holly Avenue to be constructed in line with the historic wall plane. According to the staff report, an inset was the preferred treatment of this addition. However, leniency was given because of the steep slope of the site restricted visibility of the addition from the right-of-way. Additionally, the new addition was shorter than the historic house and read as subordinate. So staff finds that the proposal for the addition on the subject property does not have any specific site conditions that support the same leniency. The lot is relatively flat, and the addition will be highly visible from the right-of-way. Staff does find that the proposed fiber cement siding, aluminum clad wood windows, and asphalt shingle roof are compatible with the historic resource. Staff finds that the fenestration alterations are generally compatible and that this alteration is consistent with the predominant architectural style and period of the resource per the guidelines. And staff recommends that the applicant narrow and shrink the footprint of the addition and add more effective insets. Staff also recommends that the applicant include a tree survey in their HOP application. And staff requests feedback from the HPC on the following: the appropriateness of the alterations to the historic building, including the rear demolition and the new fenestration, the appropriateness of the size and location of the proposed addition, the appropriateness of the height and massing of the proposed addition, and any other comments. And that concludes the presentation, and staff can take any questions at this time.
Are there any questions for staff? Commissioner Galway.
This is Commissioner Galway. Do we know anything about whether there'll be any tree removal?
I haven't heard anything about tree removal, and I am suggesting that they include a tree survey
I
in
did
their
hear
next.
that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do we know approximately how far the addition sets back from the street?
I don't know off the top of my head, but we can measure it over here, and the applicant will also be able to probably answer those questions when they come up.
Thank you. There are no more questions for staff. We will ask the applicant, Anna Mackler, or the architect, Eric Saul, to come forth. And if you would hit the button on the mic till it turns green and state your name and relationship to the project.
I'm Barack Sky, and I'm Anna Mackler's partner, and we are the owners of the home.
I'm Anna Mackler, owner of the home.
Eric Saul, architect.
Thank you. You'll have 7 minutes to make a presentation.
So I grew up in Tacoma Park, and I'm super excited to have the opportunity with this house in particular to revitalize it and bring it back to, we love historic homes, and bring it up to a bit more modern standards inside to make it work for our family. It's a very small house the way that it is now. But we're big on character, and which is why we're working with Eric here to help us keep the character of the house and just expand it to a size that's just more functional for a modern family.
All right, where to begin? So this house is very small, just right off the bat. It's tiny. And the second floor is also clipped. So you have a roof that starts at 5'4" and goes up to 8 feet. So the roof lines are extra low in this house. It's almost like a semi-Cape Cod in terms of massing. So trying to do a 2-story addition off the back was, a little bit of a challenge because we don't want 5'4" ceilings, on the edge going around. We have to have windows and things. Of course, we've done some gables and things like that to help. But that's kind of where we're starting with this challenge. So what we propose, and the width of the house is pretty narrow at 25 feet. We have like 14 feet of room on the left side of the site plan. If you could go to that site plan there. 14, 13 feet or something like that. So we're just taking that because it's space that we can use, and we've done that in the past. I've done that in the past. I've gotten several of the projects you showed today were mine, 2 stories and 1 story approved going up the side. I want to specifically call out a 2-story addition I didn't do, but 512 Philadelphia was done with a massive side addition. I brought pictures of that in my, it'll come up here. So the whole left side of this project, and this faces Philadelphia, they didn't put windows on the front where the siding addition is. That whole left side is on the side of the house, not even behind it, on the side of it. And it's 2 stories, it's big. So I don't think we're out of character with the neighborhood and allowing that. That's why we went out just 5 feet. To start with, let's go to the right side of our house. The reason we're flush on the right side is because our stairs are right there, and the landing is exactly 3 feet. These are an old, nice staircase in this house. We don't want to rip out the stair. So if I inset a foot, I can't get into the addition from the top of the stair. I got to rip through a bedroom and just ruin a whole bedroom just to get to the back of the house. So my leniency is, what I'm asking for is, you know, a way to help solve this issue where I have 3 feet on the top of the stair to get into my rear addition, or their rear addition, not my house. So the existing house was there on the first floor, we're just extending it up, and there has been precedent for allowing that. We did that on 7204 Hawley, went directly above the addition. We're kind of, even though we're tearing down the addition, we're still rebuilding it in the same spot. We're also 35 feet back from the street. This is not 25 feet back from the street. We are extra far back. I don't think you see the front of the back of this house as much as you think you would. It's also up on a hill. So like it was said when we started, the backyard isn't really viewable from the street. So we're back another, not only 35 feet, but the house is another 20 feet deep, 25 feet deep. So this addition is 63 feet back from the street. That's the minimum for an ADU. I mean, that's how far back we are. We could build an ADU 60 feet from the front street. So I think we're far enough away where you don't really experience the back of this house. I think it starts to just disappear. There's a picture shown from the left side from the street that the staff brought, which kind of proves our point. It's a little sliver you see. I don't know where that picture is. Maybe you'll help find it. Yeah, it's somewhere back in there. Yeah, that yellow arrow is pointing at it. That's all you see. So it's very hard to see this. And I think eye level this is way above eye level. There's no way you're standing on the street in this perspective view. You're up high. This was taken from a high camera or something. It's not taken from the street. So I don't think our addition is dominating the street or overly massive. We added a 6-inch hyphen space on that left side so we could see the original gable and all that stuff and not clip it. So we moved it back 6 inches. I'm now hearing a foot or 1 or 2 feet is the requirement. I've been doing 6 inches a lot. I can't remember the last time I did a foot. I did 3 houses on Maple in the last 4 or 5 years, all 6 inches offsets. So I'm shocked to hear 2 feet. But we're preliminary. We can work with that. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I think obviously we can talk about the roof height and everything. We're just trying to have an 8-foot ceiling on the second floor. It's a small house. The addition is not that big for a regular house in this neighborhood. It's just that the main house is so small. And before I forget, 134% of the main house was the criteria. That's also a new one. 7110 Sycamore was shown by the staff as an example. I designed that house. That's 110% of the footprint of the main house. So you allowed that to be bigger than the main house. So it's kind of weird that now there's a requirement that you can't go more than 100. So anyway, that's it. That's all I got. I'll let you guys take it from here.
Can I add one thing really quick too? And in the first floor of the house, there's a fireplace, and then keeping the staircase and keeping this fireplace too really minimizes the useful space in the historic part of the house. So that just sort of cuts into the livable space there. Like that entrance room that you come in, you can't really even use as a room. So.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant? Everybody's thinking hard. I'll kind of give some questions. I don't think we're saying, at least from the HPC perspective, that there's a limit on the square footage in terms of what percent over the existing. We're not saying that. Just let's clear that up. It is a tough puzzle because the house is so small, but I do think there are some things you could do to reduce the apparent scale of it without changing the square footage or minor changes to the square footage. So we'll talk to that in a little bit. Are there any questions for the applicant before we start feedback? No? I'm sure they will think of some. So I think part of I went out there this morning, walked around, up and down, across the street. When you're across the street, you see a lot more of the back than that photograph that was shown, which was the sidewalk closest to your house. But when you're across the street, you get a deeper view back. So with no vegetation, and that's how we look at projects, as if there's no vegetation, you'll have a pretty good shot of the side view. You certainly have a good shot of the street, the driveway side of the house. I do appreciate your stair comment. That's a pretty good reason to align the proposed addition with the house, the existing structure. I get that. There's really no suitable way short of building over that one-story entry piece to kind of create a little stair hall that you could U-shape around and back into the addition. That we can think more about. I think for myself, on the left side is where things for me start to fall apart. I think your addition, the gable, which has a 7 and 12 pitch, that kind of elongates that facade, in my opinion. I think you should try to, one, shorten the gable portion down as much as you can, and try to get the roof pitch closer to the 12 and 12. Maybe it's 10 and 12. I would try and offset the dining room and the master bed. First of all, the master bedroom is like 55% of the original footprint of the house. That's a very large bedroom in scale for this house. So I would like to see the master bedroom be a little bit smaller, but also if you could offset it so that you read that gable separately, just like you read the gable of the existing house from the side. You can see the corners of your addition gable. And maybe there's a way to slide the dining room and the master bedroom inward. That will help, I think, reduce the apparent massing of the facade on that side. And I think that's, along with the roof pitch, if that can be steeper, would help. The inset, 6 inches is kind of nothing. It probably should be deeper, and there's no reason. You have plenty of space on the first floor to inset that. It's just a transition space from the living room to your family room. There's really nothing functionally going on there. So you could certainly go a foot. I understand it impacts your closet on the second floor, but still I think you can afford that. I'd be willing to, the screen porch, maybe that if we're sliding the dining room over, that the screen porch gets proportioned so that it's a functional screen porch. And that could be, I could see that happening. I think your width of the family room at 19.6 is very large. Try to get it closer to the width of the front to back dimension of the living room would be the sweet spot, in my opinion. Other comments? Other thoughts? Commissioner Kaplan.
Hi. Yeah, I'm just, I feel like looking at those photos we saw, which aren't from across the street, I guess I kind of interpret them differently because I see blue sky and I'm picturing house there. And it just, this addition would make it a different house. It's not the same house. It's just, I think the staff used the word overwhelming, and it is overwhelming the house. It's just too massive. I think if you're gonna maintain the kind of flush addition on one side of the house, it kind of allows you to go in a little deeper on the other side. This 5-foot extension beyond the elevation, I think is going to read as massive. I mean, one thing you might do is if you make the addition where it comes in contact with the house more narrow, maybe there's a way you can have it extend past the elevation further back, and maybe that'll read almost, I've seen that done where it reads almost as a different structure and not crowding out that structure. I think one thing that also might help is right now, the height of the addition is even with the side gable roof, if you brought that down to be even with the front facing gable, it would be a little more subservient. You wouldn't have the whole house just extending. You would have, just like it is in the front, you could have it a little bit lower, and that I think that would help too. But whatever the solutions are, I agree with staff that it just changes the house altogether the way it is right now.
Commissioner Dominiani.
I think I'm going to echo what Commissioner Kaplan was saying, but I also was reacting a little bit to the roof plan and the heights of the cross gables. First of all, I want to start with gratitude because it seems like you're really committed to this house and ensuring that the historic area is preserved and trying to echo some of the features you're seeing in the new addition. So I think it's important to start with gratitude because we get applicants sometimes who just want to build something cool and don't want to necessarily honor that. So thank you for the effort, and it seems like you're really receptive to feedback. So starting with that also. I was reacting a little bit to kind of the roof lines and kind of what some of the commissioners were saying about like the sense that the whole house was just sort of getting extended, extruding itself backwards at that same height and mass. And you have this beautiful historic front gable that's so prominent and shaped so beautifully, and it sits a bit lower than that historic cross gable. And I was thinking and looking at the roof plan, if your proposed cross gable in the back there could also be a bit lower than that sort of prominent point, the tallest point, located close to where those chimneys are historically. And even if the portion of the house connecting backwards towards that, what we could think of almost as like a hyphen, if that could be lower too, it might read as like two separate masses a little bit, but break up that big, long, strong kind of point, highest point that we're seeing, or I could envision us seeing, bring it down the middle and then back up maybe a little bit at the rear, like depending how the gables are then oriented. I think that could help. We're not supposed to look at how the interior is structured, but sometimes when we see these puzzles, we can kind of imagine how reorienting some of the rooms can buy us a little bit of width or sort of flipping things here and there. And I'm noting kind of on the upstairs, as proposed in the addition, it is a puzzle getting from those stairs into the rear of the house and ensuring you have a bedroom there, a master bath, the other bath, the laundry room. But I think there might be some creative ways to flip where the small bedroom's bathroom is located, maybe where the laundry room ends up being, where the closet ends up being, the large master closet. And you've got quite a bit of hallway there. Reorienting a couple of them, condensing a bit, might buy a bit of space back for you, which will allow you to narrow then kind of like the addition protrusion rearward. And this may have come up during a previous application tonight, maybe you heard. There was a proposal maybe like we could think about bringing the ceiling height down on the corners of closets or the sort of edges of bedrooms, accommodating a roof line above it, also coming down in height. I think that reorienting a couple of the smaller sort of secondary rooms upstairs is going to, could accommodate such a thing, lowering that height in the closet or perhaps like in some part of a bathroom there. So anyway, something to consider. I know it's densely laid out. It could be difficult, but some of those things might be allow you to fit a hyphen in and then ultimately narrow the width a little bit. I think some of the other things that we had been requested to react to on behalf of the staff. include the appropriateness of like the fenestration of the addition, other stuff. I think the windows look great. You noted here and there where there would be shutters to match. And I think the most important thing for me is where there's going to be a wall plane that's continuing along where the historic wall was to the new wall, to have like a separation of some kind. We've seen, I think you've done before, a bit of a board or a batten or something in between, like to differentiate the two. If we're not going to preserve that historic corner of the house, we want to be able to read like what was original and what's kind of new. So you seem to be wise to that, but I just want to make sure that that's a part of the plan too. Yeah, materials and details I think end up mattering a lot when we're adding such a big addition to a small house. So yeah, that's all I have to say. And thank you again.
Commissioner Nazar.
I don't have much to add, but I agree with all the comments that other commissioners had. And I understand the constraints on the right size, but I think you can easily grab at least 1'10" or about 2 feet on the left side without much compromise, or, you can still have a very nice functioning restroom and master bedroom. And that includes adding to the hyphen. I think you can easily add another 6 inches, and it's not gonna damage your plan, or you don't have to even destroy, do the layout again, redo the layout. On the materials, I think the fenestration and the materials are appropriate. The windows are nicely done. And I understand why you limited the openings on the left side. And I guess, yeah, the overall, I think if you bring the overall mass down and just try to cut a couple feet on the left side, that would definitely help. And I understand you don't want to elongate the house as what it is, but you still have 24 feet before you get to your setback. Maybe grab a foot or so in the back to kind of, achieve what you want. That's all the comments.
Commissioner Galway.
This is Commissioner Galway. I always take the approach when I look at these preliminaries, what would I be able to vote yes for? And I think there's a couple things here that would make it very tough for me to do that. And I think one is the 5-foot projection beyond the wall plane. And with or without the 6-inch, the fact that it is a 2-story addition makes it very difficult for me to be able to say that I could deal with that. There may be some tricks. Maybe the first floor projects out and you do something on the second level so that it appears as a single story. And I have in the past supported a single story because the massing is much smaller. But when you have the 2 stories effectively either in the plane or beyond the plane, for me, it's been very difficult in the past to say that would be okay. I'm sympathetic to the problem you have, and that is the house is fairly narrow. So I get that. I understand that. I think Commissioner Nasser said maybe you could push it back a little bit. You don't want it to be a railroad car, I'm sympathetic to that. And I haven't really sat and tried to study what could you do, but so sorry about that. But I do think that look at that. What could you do? The other thing that we've done in the past is, and it helps break up the massing somewhat and distinguish the old from the new, is bring the ridge line of the new construction down. And I'm not talking about 4 feet down, but maybe, if much like the gable end, if it's lower, it doesn't read as, straight walls, straight roof, somehow try to break it up and be sympathetic to the fact that it shouldn't be, because it is visible, from the street and from across the street. What can you do to potentially set it back a bit or change the geometry in a way that allows you to not let it read as though it's just a slam bam extension of the existing home. So it's a tough one. This one's a real tough one, and I think that makes it tough for us as commissioners to do, because I try to be myself, whether we don't set precedent, but I do try to be consistent in a way that I treat all of these reviews. And so I think the 134%, that in of itself isn't the issue, as long as you can't tell that it's 134%, and I think that's, if we've approved them and they're 110%, it's either because of the topography or the fact that it's very impossible or very little that you can see from the street. So don't get hung up on the square footage as much. It's more about how it appears from the public right away. Let me just make sure there was anything else. No, that was it. Thank you.
Sounds like, anything else? Any other commissioners? I think you've heard our comments. Staff will have notes for you on that and recordings. If you have any questions, work with them. And I think we will see you back for another preliminary. Thank you. Do you want to take a break? The commissioners would like to take a 5-minute recess before we start the next case.
It's 8:50. Would you like us to, 8:51? Do you want us to come back at 9?
Sure.
9 o'clock?
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right. Yes.
Members of the commission, we are now back live.
Thank you very much. Our next case will be 3A, which will be a public hearing and work session on the Edwin and Julia Reynolds House. And I know we have a staff report on that.
Yes, good evening. For the record, John Lieberts, Cultural Resource Planner. So the purpose of tonight's public hearing and work session is for the Historic Preservation Commission to evaluate the Edwin and Julia Reynolds House for designation in the Master Plan for Historic Preservation. Staff is requesting two actions from the Historic Preservation Commission tonight. First, to find that the Reynolds House meets 3 designation criteria outlined in the Montgomery County Code. And second, to advise the Planning Board to recommend that the County Council amends the Master Plan for Historic Preservation to add the Reynolds House as a Master Plan Historic Site as part of the Friendship Heights Sector Plan. Before getting into the evaluation, I'll briefly provide some background information on the property, the Master Plan for Historic Preservation, and the ongoing Friendship Heights Sector Plan. So the Edwin and Julia Reynolds House is located on the west side of Willard Avenue and is owned by M&C PPC. The 1-acre property sits within Willard Avenue Park, and the house is managed by Montgomery Parks as part of its rental portfolio. On the left is a wider view of the area, and you can see it in relation to Friendship Heights. Excuse me. Yep, you can see in relation to Friendship Heights. Here's Wisconsin Avenue, here's River Road, and the red pin marks the location of the Reynolds House. And on the right, the property is outlined in blue, showing its location within the park. So resources listed to the Master Plan for Historic Preservation must meet criteria for historical and cultural significance or architectural and design significance. The designation process includes hearing at the Historic Preservation Commission, Planning Board, and ultimately the County Council. Tonight's public hearing is the first step in that process, and there will be additional opportunities for public input as the recommendation moves forward. So the Friendship Heights Sector Plan is a comprehensive update to the 1998 plan. It envisions improved connectivity, new public spaces, and additional development to strengthen the local economy and expand housing and amenities in Friendship Heights. The Reynolds House is being evaluated as part of this broader planning effort. I'll begin with a brief architectural overview of the Reynolds House. The Reynolds House was constructed in 1899 and designed by Charles H. Kelly, a builder and relative of the Reynolds family. It reflects the Queen Anne style, which was common in the late 19th century and often characterized by features such as asymmetrical forms, steep roof lines, and decorative detailing. By the time this house was built, the style was already transitioning towards more restrained ornamentation, which was reflected in this design. The Reynolds House has a high degree of architectural integrity. The 2.5-story form with its cross gables, full width front porch, and recessed rear porch remains intact. There have been minor alterations, including partial replacement of the siding and windows, capped wood trim, and the removal of shutters. Also, a 2nd-story window was also replaced by a bay window here. This is a view that shows the east side elevation from the edge of the property near Willard Avenue. And this view shows the front and west elevations, that west elevation facing the Little Falls branch. You can see several non-historic elements, including a rear deck, a sliding glass door here, and alterations to these 2 2nd-story windows. Overall, the building retains sufficient integrity to convey its historic character and its period of construction. Next, I'll briefly provide the historic context that informs staff's evaluation. This includes the Shoyam family and the broader development of the surrounding area. So Louis Charles Shoyam was born on May 25, 1836 in modern-day Ukraine and immigrated to the United States in 1861. Soon after arrival, he served in the Union Army, where he rose to the rank of first lieutenant. And after the war, he married Sarah Good, the daughter of Thomas and Jane Good of Georgetown in Washington, D.C. in 1866. So in 1867, the Library of Congress recognized the need for a Russian language specialist and offered Shoyam the position with the catalog division. He accepted the offer, moved his family to Montgomery County, and remained employed at the Library of Congress for the rest of his career. The family initially rented a house and then purchased the 8-acre property along River Road in 1875 and established their family homestead. This is the property where the Reynolds house would later be built. At that time, the area was mostly rural farmland. So on this 1865 map, the red arrow points to the Crown property, which was purchased by the Shoyams. And you can see Fort Bayard in Washington, D.C. here, and this is River Road here. On the map, you can also see during the Civil War fallen tree stands, which are these kind of cut symbols here, and existing tree stands, which are these symbols here. So development in Friendship Heights began with the arrival of the streetcar lines in the 1890s. These lines connected the area to the District of Columbia, making it more accessible for residential development. As a result, subdivision quickly followed, establishing the area's suburban characteristics. The Shoyams conveyed sections of their property to the Glen Echo Railroad Company for the construction of that streetcar line, and you can see that section circled in red here on the screen. So Julia Shoyam, the daughter of Louis and Sarah, married Edwin Reynolds in 1896. As a wedding gift, her parents conveyed her 2.57 acres of their estate. Reynolds worked as a civil engineer, including brief employment by the Chevy Chase Land Company before moving to New York. He returned to Montgomery County to work for the federal government in the Patent Office for the remainder of his career. So in 1899, the Reynolds secured a mortgage to construct the subject house on that parcel gifted from the Shoyams. They hired their uncle, Charles H. Kelly, a builder, to design the house shown on the slide. These are the original architectural drawings prepared by Kelly. The design included typical elements of the Queen Anne style, but certain features such as the conical porch roof were omitted, likely due to cost, according to the family. The Reynolds house predates the subdivision of its immediate surroundings. In the early 1900s, property owners subdivided the Hills, followed by Friendship Heights, and Stephen B. Perry subdivided West Friendship, immediately adjacent to the Reynolds property in 1908, and the red arrow points to the approximate location of the Reynolds house. So shown is the subdivision plat for West Friendship. Notably, Reynolds was the surveyor for this subdivision. Between 1908 and 1913, Julia Reynolds purchased lot 3 through 5 of West Friendship to expand the family's holdings as outlined in red. And again, the red arrow points to the approximate location of the home. Willard Avenue, shown on this plat as Friendship Avenue, was platted in 1909. This expansion of the Reynolds property connected the house to the emerging suburban street network. So in the early 20th century, Louis Shoyam subdivided portions of his original property to provide land for his children. Several houses were constructed by members of the family, forming a cluster along River Road and Willard Avenue. The Reynolds house is the oldest of the 4 remaining houses within this familial grouping, and the Reynolds house is noted by the red arrow. And the other 3 colored arrows point to other family homes. This 1928 aerial shows the Reynolds house, marked by the red arrow. At this time, development in the surrounding area was still relatively limited. Most new subdivision construction was concentrated closer to Wisconsin Avenue in the Hills and Friendship Heights. By the mid-20th century, the area had changed significantly. This 1953 map shows the infill of previously undeveloped land with single-family housing. And again, the red arrow points to the Reynolds house. Beginning in the 1970s, MNC PPC assembled land to create what is now Willard Avenue Park. Park improvements have led to the acquisition and demolition of several buildings as part of the park development program. In 1995, the Planning Board approved the acquisition of the Reynolds house and the surrounding property for inclusion in the park, not for its preservation. Montgomery Park subsequently added the Reynolds house to its rental portfolio, with demolition anticipated at a later date. I'll now move to staff evaluation of the Reynolds house, beginning with a brief overview of earlier findings. In 2009, an architectural historian under contract with Montgomery Park's Property Management Section completed the Montgomery County Department of Parks Cultural Resource Stewardship Section Finding of Eligibility form for the Reynolds house. The study found that the property met 4 designation criteria for listing in the master plan for historic preservation. This preliminary analysis was found to be, was concurred by both the Montgomery Parks Cultural Resource section and the Montgomery Planning's Historic Preservation section concurred with these findings. Today, the Historic Preservation Division finds that the rental house reflects development along River Road prior to its suburbanization, offering insight into the area before the development of Friendship Heights. As the oldest of 5 houses built by the descendants of Louise and Sarah Shoyam, the Reynolds house stands as a testament to the enduring success of the family and their presence along Little Falls Branch for 150 years. The house is prominent within the landscape due to its orientation towards River Road and the former Glen Echo Railroad, rather than the suburban street network established with the development of Willard Avenue. Today, the Reynolds House is an established landmark within Willard Avenue Neighborhood Park, connecting visitors to the community's history. Staff evaluated the Reynolds House under the designation criteria in Chapter 24A. We found that the property meets 3 designation criteria. First, criterion 1A for its reflection of earlier settlement patterns prior to widespread suburbanization. Second, criterion 1D, the house reflects the success and establishment of a 19th century immigrant family and the transformative effects of new transportation networks. And criterion 2E, as a recognizable and established visual feature within Willard Avenue Neighborhood Park. The proposed environmental setting consists of the parcels acquired from the descendants of the Reynolds family in 1995. However, staff would also support a reduced setting limited to the footprint of the house to provide greater flexibility for park use moving forward. Finally, I'll outline Montgomery Planning's recommendation as it relates to the sector plan and tonight's action. As part of the working draft of the Friendship Heights sector plan, staff will recommend designation of the Reynolds House in the master plan for historic preservation. This means that staff's recommendations at the planning board will be consistent with the recommendation being presented to the commission tonight. So in summary, staff requests that the commission takes 2 actions. First, find that the Reynolds House meets 3 designation criteria under the county code. And second, advise the planning board to recommend the county council amend the master plan for historic preservation to designate the property as a historic site. Of note, the commission received 7 letters of support for the designation from interested parties, and the property owner, represented by Montgomery Parks, objects to the designation. For next steps, Montgomery Planning will be providing an update to the community on the entire working draft in June. The planning board will then consider the draft later this summer. The public hearing will not be scheduled until after the August recess of the planning board. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do the commissioners have any questions for staff? No? Thank you for that wonderful presentation. There are no questions by the commission. We will start our public testimony, and we will start with folks from the Montgomery Parks, Cassandra Michaud and Christy Ciabatti. So push the button until the mic turns green. State your name and position to this case, and you'll have 5 minutes to make a presentation.
Will we be able to move the slides?
She was asking if
I'm sorry.
it's five minutes for the presentation.
It's 5 minutes, so we can, you can say next slide and we can advance them from up here. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Hi, good evening. My name is Christy Kabadi. I'm the Division Chief for Park Planning and Stewardship at Montgomery Parks. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. We take our cultural stewardship responsibilities seriously and diligently preserve and interpret Montgomery County's heritage in our park system. Our professional staff evaluated the Reynolds House and did not find sufficient basis for designation. Cassandra Michaud will speak to that analysis, and I would like to provide some context. The property was acquired by Parks in 1995 with the intent to remove the house and expand recreational use for Willard Avenue Park. Since then, the house is primarily operated as a rental, and efforts to introduce new park uses have not met with community support. As a result, we are currently reassessing the role of the house and site within the park system. We recognize and respect HPC's role in preserving historic structures, but in this case, based on our professional assessment and decades of managing this property, we do not support designation of the Reynolds House. Thank you.
If you could advance to the next slide, I'd appreciate it. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Cassandra Michaud, Cultural Resources Steward.
We can turn the volume up in the room.
My name is Cassandra Michaud. Is that better? My name is Cassandra Michaud, Cultural Resources Stewardship Supervisor for Montgomery Parks, and I'm here to provide testimony about the designation of Edward and Julia Reynolds House. I respectfully request that the Commission recommend against listing it in the master plan. As reflected in our written testimony, our written submission, this position is not taken lightly or thoughtlessly. The Montgomery Park stewards over 100 historic buildings, the vast majority of which are already designated, as can be seen on this slide. We take our charge seriously. We support designation when resources meet the criteria. In this case, after multiple internal evaluations, we firmly believe the Reynolds House does not meet that threshold. Next slide, please. The designation report argues that the house represents late 19th century development along River Road and is one of the few resources that evokes that period. But a review of the area historic properties shows that the Reynolds House was not part of a typical agricultural system or broad settlement pattern. It was part of a common private family arrangement, not a defining development type. The report identifies multiple remaining houses, meaning that this is not a unique example of that arrangement. The Reynolds House does not reflect either the historic agricultural pattern of land use or the later suburban development. Next slide, please. The report argues that the house is significant because it embodies the success of Louis Solium and as an immigrant. That history is notable, but this building does not directly convey that story. The original Solium homestead would, and it no longer exists. The Reynolds House was built by a second-generation US-born civil servant and reflects a very different context. The period of significance is listed as 1899, and Louis Solium's story predates that. This property tells the story of Edwin Reynolds, not Louis Solium. The designation report also emphasizes the house's connection to the Glen Echo Railroad. The Reynolds House's link to that transportation story, however, is tenuous, and the Reynolds were one of many that benefited from proximity to that rail line. That history is already more effectively conveyed through the landscape based on the railroad right-of-way and through existing and planned interpretation within the park. Next slide, please. The report describes the house as a prominent visual feature and landmark. Field documentation, however, shows that the house is set back, screened by vegetation and topography, and enclosed by fencing, limiting its visibility from the park and the surrounding roads. In practice, this building is not experienced as a defining landmark on the landscape, as can be seen in this video. If you could go to the next slide and click the video, I'd appreciate it. Yeah, there you go, perfect. This video shows that the house can barely be identified visually even when passing by it directly on the road. While the house retains its basic architectural form, it is a typical example of a common style of dwelling and not a rare or distinguished resource. Its setting has been substantially altered by later suburban development, limiting its ability to convey that original context. While the excellently researched and presented designation report presents a compelling history, for the reasons detailed above and in our submission, we believe that Reynolds House does not meet any of the criteria for designation, and we respectfully request a recommendation against. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to present.
Thank you. Are there any questions for these Montgomery Park people? No? If not, then we will continue with our public testimony. Thank you very much. We have Robert Pestronk. So if you would state your name and relationship to the application, you'll have 5 minutes to make a presentation.
Thank you. I am Robert Pestronk. I'm a neighbor of the home. I support designating the Reynolds House as an historic property and of recommending that action to the Montgomery County Planning Board and the Montgomery County Council. The home is of historic note and meets criteria outlined in the county rules for such designation. The Master Plan Historic Site Designation Form dated May 2026 supports that designation. I've lived next door to the Reynolds house for 18 years. I pass by the home and am reminded of its significant history each time I go by. The home remains a physical reminder and an ongoing symbol of Montgomery County's remarkable, but sometimes unfortunate past, a past that mirrors that of the United States itself. That past must not be erased. While its history and significance are unknown to or now forgotten by many residents, the home should be preserved and over time, more richly interpreted in its physical presence. Current, and soon thousands more who will move into my neighborhood, will appreciate this history close up and with more than just a memorial plaque. I note that the home can support its own upkeep and renovation with receipts from its use as a rental property at market rate. As a site for a community garden or event space, additional revenue can be raised so it does not become a drain on Parks' budget. The West Friendship Association has continuously offered its members expertise to assist Parks staff with creative ideas for its use. The home and its current occupants also provide a sense of security for families and individuals using the park, since the home on the hill overlooks Willard Avenue Neighborhood Park day and night. The physical presence of the home prevents degradation of its acre and of the park below, should there be interest in using the park for a less valuable purpose. One historic additional detail of Mr. Reynolds' relationship with an American hero, Clara Barton, is worth noting. It was he Ms. Barton turned to electrify appliances in her home. Finally, I highlight aspects of staff's own report detailing the compelling match with historic designation criteria 1A, 1D, and 1E. The Reynolds home stands as a tangible reminder of an earlier settlement pattern, and it evokes this period of the county's history. It embodies the success and establishment of a 19th century immigrant family after the Civil War. It reflects the transformative impact of improved transportation on Montgomery County's development as this section of the county shifted from an agricultural to suburban character. It stands as a prominent visual feature in Friendship Heights, clearly visible from the road due to its current placement within Willard Avenue Neighborhood Park. Thank you for what I hope will be your decision to designate the home as historic and so recommend to the Montgomery County's Planning Board and Council.
Great, thank you. If there are no questions for Robert, we'll go on to the next. That's Dawn Calabia. And if you could push the button on the mic so it turns green.
I'm Dawn Calabia, the secretary of the board secretary for the West Friendship Association.
Thank you. You'll have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. It's a privilege to be here at a hearing we've been waiting for many years, the opportunity to see if the house can have historic preservation status. When our organization was founded, our concerns were to work to preserve the nature of the Willard Avenue Neighborhood Park as a peaceful wooded stream park where we would have an oasis away from the busy, noisy life of urban America. The second reason that we wanted to become an organization was that we wanted to preserve the Reynolds House as a local historic and cultural resource, a house whose presence enhances our community and reminds us of our local history, and particularly of the Solomon and Reynolds family. As Mr. Pastronk said, it recognizes the patterns of how the county has developed historically. I'm here to express the association's support for historic designation of the Reynolds House to the Planning Board and the County Council, and to work with Parks Department to make this feasible and affordable and sustainable. We look forward to working with you and others to achieve these objectives and to keep this a part of our community. My husband Tino and I live directly across the street from the house. To us, it means many things, and it means many things to our neighbors. We were surprised initially when we visited the property to see that the house faced River Road, learning later that it was because of that was the historic road, that was the best road at the time to reach the District of Columbia. No houses in the area are older or enjoy the rich history of this Queen Anne-style home, nor possibly are they more appreciated by neighboring residents. The residents who appreciate it as a living history of Friendship Heights transition, and we're a community in transition from an agrarian community into a suburb, a change brought about in part by improved transportation and obviously by development investment and by the hard work of the residents and investors. Mr. Reynolds was an engineer who supported the area's development. We know that he granted an easement to the Glen Echo Railroad to cross his property. It said, and this may just be neighborhood discussions, that he had bells in his house which rang when the trolley was approaching, and that he possibly used that trolley to visit with Clara Barton, who's his mother, Mr. Reynolds' mother, and Clara Barton were more than acquaintances. They had traveled together. Edwin worked on the Chevy Chase plat in 1892, and also for the Chevy Chase Land Company, a company that we all know something about in this county. He prepared the plat for the West Friendship subdivision in which I now live. He laid out the streets and lots for single-family houses along a Friendship Avenue, now called Willard. 30 years ago, my husband, a transportation buff, was intrigued, and we consider ourselves lucky to move to the county and to the Willard Avenue neighborhood. Given the great transportation in the county and the art community, shopping, schools, parks, and the diverse community that is Friendship Heights and Montgomery County. As children of immigrants, we were pleased to learn from our neighbors about the heritage of the immigrant Solomon family, how they settled here after the Civil War, how as their children, when their daughter reached marital age, they bequeathed her a piece of property where eventually she built the house with Edmund Reynolds. In the community, the house was often called the Blue House, and people took pleasure in the setting of the house and its landscaping, the beautiful beds of crocuses that come every spring and fill the entire area of the side yard.
Your time is coming to an end. If you could please conclude your remarks.
Interestingly, as the Solomons' children built their homes in the community, many of them chose to stay, and many of their descendants still live here, and I know we'll hear from one of the descendants of the family in a while. They often saw, after the demolition of their father's house, they saw the Reynolds house as one of the anchors for their presence in the community. Today, the Reynolds house crowns the crest of a hill with its side yards and vistas, with a stream still running by it. It is a grand dam, which is a jewel in Willard Park, and is one that we are happy to walk by each day. We are about to welcome some new neighbors to our neighborhood, but unfortunately, they'll miss a wonderful historic site, the Geico Building, which is to be destroyed this summer. We hope that the newcomers to our neighborhood, to Friendship Commons, will get to see at least one historic property still in Willard Avenue. They'll never see the Geico Building, and we're sorry about that. But this is a property that is owned by the county, and we're hoping that wiser heads will prevail and will want to give us the opportunity to have a piece of our history.
Thank you.
Still
I must
standing.
ask you to.
Thank you, and I urge you to vote in favor of historic designation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Julie Potter. Please state your name for the record and your association with this application, and you'll have 3 minutes to talk.
I'm Julie Potter, and I'm a resident of Friendship Heights Village, and I love the park. I walk there at least weekly. So what I wanted to talk about today was that I really am in favor of the Reynolds House, and I think it really recaptures the past, and you feel like you're in the past, that you are living in that time. But I wanted to look even farther back to when that property was purchased, and it was purchased by the sale of an African-American enslaved girl who was just 14 years old. And her name was Harriet, and the Reynolds House is not directly related to Harriet, but it's on that land that, because of Harriet's sale, that house was able to be built. So I feel that it has been said that that house and that the houses there were the beginning of the planned suburban development in Montgomery County. But as we all know, it was really the beginning of white suburban development in Montgomery County. The Black population in Montgomery County in 1900 was 33% of the population, and that by 1940 was down to 11%. So the history of slavery and the abolition of slavery and the capricious relocating of Black people in Montgomery County and all over the US, for that matter, must be acknowledged. So this is also an opportunity for us to redress that. And I think the park should be named in honor of Harriet, whom we don't know, the Harriet Park, and also the house. You know, I know people are living there now and are happily living there, but if there were a point where it could be rented in the future, it would be good that an African-American family or couple or person could live there, or a descendant of Harriet. So this park and this house, it's a living history of slavery and how slavery helped to build our country. And it's also a history of the modern development of the suburban development in this country. And I think they really need to be acknowledged. And it's important that I think that house should remain there, because that's really part of that history. The person who was sold to get that property and that consequent house, it's very important that we honor that in any way that we can.
So please wrap your.
In conclusion,
Yes.
I wanted to say that it was stated that there could be a sign stating the history of this park. But as I've just said, it's really a living history. A sign really does not get you into the environment of that history. So thank you. I hope you will decide to make this
Thank you. Appreciate your coming in.
an historic preservation You're welcome.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Ralph Wooden.
Now, I've only got 3 minutes, but if I had 100 minutes, I might be able to tell you about the house. So I'll take questions after.
So if you, I appreciate that. If you could, again, for the record, state your name and relationship to the application. We can.
No, I'm so sorry, Mr. Wooden. Can you press the button on your mic till it turns green? That's it? Thank
I
you.
live directly across Little Falls Branch from the Reynolds house, and it's been in my family for a lot of years. I'm tasked with describing my 72-year relationship with the Reynolds house in just 3 minutes. When I was a child, we called it Hazel's house, and in fact, we still do. Hazel was the youngest child of Edwin and Julia Reynolds. She was born in the house in 1904. When I was young, Ned was an old man, and he died in the house when I was 12. His ashes were buried under the pine tree in the side yard with those of his wife, Julia, and their daughter, Olive, who had died with her fiancé while canoeing the Potomac River Rapids in 1921. She had worked as a cataloger in the Library of Congress. Her fiancé, a World War I veteran, also worked at the library. He was buried at Arlington Cemetery. Of course, I didn't know any of that when I was 12. I knew that Hazel lived in a deliciously old-fashioned house directly across the creek from me. I loved watching the changing seasons against her beautiful house, and especially the colorful sunrises. Hazel's mother and my mother's mother were sisters, the two daughters of Louis Charles Soyam, who bought 8 acres of farmland on River Road in 1868 after fighting in the Civil War and marrying a Georgetown girl. Louis was head of the Slavic language division at the Library of Congress, and in fact, a bust of his, made from his life mask adorns the south side of the Jefferson Building. He was the first of several generations of family who worked for the federal government for a span of over 100 years, including, of course, Ned Reynolds and his son, Ted, who both spent their careers with the Federal Trade Commission. Again, I knew little of that, but living in one of the old houses on the property, built 15 years after Hazel's, my appreciation of home and family deepened as the years went by. In 1983, I had the privilege of living with Hazel for the last 4 years of her life. I dare say I am the only person alive who lived in that house, so little changed from when Uncle Ned and Aunt Julia were there. I slept in Ned Reynolds' bedroom and sat reading in his old man's recliner, and I recently passed on his roll-top desk and dining room table to my son, Jordan. Jordan, by the way, is the 5th generation of our family to live on the property, and his son, due in 3 weeks, will be the 6th. I certainly hope that my grandchildren will always see sunrises at Hazel's house across the creek, visit ancestors' graves in the family cemetery, and love the experience of living on the historic family property. Thank you. And I will take 100 minutes of questions.
Thank you.
Or less.
Thank you very much. And next we'll have Sandra Yola. And if you, yes, turn on the mic and state your name and reference to the application for the record.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Sandra Eula. I'm testifying as an individual
For 32 years, I've lived next door to Willard Avenue Neighborhood Park and 2 doors down from the Reynolds house. Every time I've walked along the street or the park trail, I've stopped and looked at that house. I also worked for the Montgomery County Planning Department for 22 years, first in zoning, and then for 12 years in historic preservation. I retired in 2019. I've evaluated many county resources for historic designation or locational atlas placement, and I know how the criteria work. In 2014, I was assigned to work as the historian for the Westbard Plan, which is down the street on River Road, and I began learning about the fascinating history of the area and the Reynolds House and Park, and I have never stopped researching. I testify in strong support of designating the Edwin and Julia Reynolds House, and I refer you to my longer written comments. I commend the Historic Preservation staff, John Liebert's excellent designation report, which aptly conveys the many historical themes illustrated by the house and park. And I agree with his findings that the house meets designation criteria 1A, 1D, and 2E. I wish to point out here that the life of Mr. Edwin C. Reynolds illustrates much about Montgomery County's development. He was the surveyor, as you've heard, for Chevy Chase Village, which is a designated Montgomery County Historic District and a place that became a nationwide model for suburban planning. He also has hyper-local significance for my neighborhood because he was the surveyor for West Friendship, the subdivision on Willard Avenue adjoining the park. Unusually, and I can say this because I have read thousands of deeds, you can see the subdivision right from the house of the surveyor who created it. That is not typical. It teaches us something. Further, and based on my research, Mr. Reynolds is associated with the Glen Echo Clara Barton House and American Red Cross headquarters, a resource that is both a site on the National Register of Historic Places and a National Historic Landmark. And as you know, that designation is reserved for sites of unusually high significance. Clara Barton's diaries indicate that in August 1897, Mr. Reynolds and his mother, Harriet, came to visit, perhaps by hopping the trolley that ran through the Reynolds Solium property. Mrs. Reynolds was Miss Barton's good friend and volunteered her son's services. Clara Barton accepted the help because she was very busy at that time, converting what had been a storage facility into her new home and headquarters for the American Red Cross. Mr. Reynolds installed an electric doorbell, 8 call bells, and associated wiring for the house, and Miss Barton was delighted with the results. He also surveyed the property, yes, thank you, which she was trying to expand and found certain adjustments were necessary. He did it for fun, said Clara Barton. I asked the Historic Preservation Commission to designate the Reynolds House, the oldest building along Willard Avenue, and save our neighborhood's unique history and connection to Clara Barton. Please protect the back-in-time character and sylvan quality of the house that creates Willard Avenue, that creates it in Willard Avenue Park. I'd like to see the building remain in residential use, and I thank you so much for your consideration of what I can truly say is a unique resource. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that concludes our public testimony. We will now have discussion among the commissioners. Who would like to start?
Okay.
Commissioners Nazar.
Apparently, it's me. First of all, I wanted to thank you all for coming here tonight. It's very beautiful that this community comes together to support their environment and the neighborhood. And I appreciate all the testimonies. I think I've heard enough based on the staff report and all the beautiful memories and history of the house and the neighborhood. I strongly support the designation of the house.
Thank you. Commissioner Dominiani.
This is Commissioner Dominiani. I would like to also convey my gratitude to all of the people who provided testimony today. It is clear to me that this house stands strongly in the minds of the neighbors and those who know Friendship Heights the best. It is also clear to me, based on the staff report and my familiarity with the area, that the house does reflect 19th century development very beautifully and is an architecturally significant example of Queen Anne style in our county. And based on the testimony that I've heard today, together with the information laid out in the staff report, and recognizing that the house, in my view and in the view of the staff, it appears meets 3 of the 9 designation criteria as described, I tend to favor the designation of the Edwin and Julia Reynolds House. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kaplan.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add. I kind of concur with the information in the staff report, and it was nice to get a kind of closer view of the significance of this house and the enthusiasm of the people who live around it.
Thank you. Commissioner Bond.
Excuse me. I also support designation. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Galway, you care to make a statement?
Yeah, I also support the designation.
So I think you're hearing, and I too feel there's overwhelming history and evidence that supports the criteria noted. While I appreciate the Montgomery Park's views, I think that there's such a body of history and association with the neighborhood that I too would support the designation. So could we see the 2?
Do you see the slide?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
So would anybody like to, do we need to vote on this, or?
Yes, please. We would like a motion, a second, and then a vote from the commission on the staff recommendation.
Okay. I will make a motion that the Historic Preservation Commission find that the Edwin and Julie Reynolds House satisfies the 3 designation criteria as outlined in 24A-3B of the Historic Resource Preservation Montgomery County Code, and secondly, advise the Planning Board to recommend that the County Council amends the Master Plan for Historic Preservation to add the Edwin and Julia Reynolds House as a Master Plan Historic Site as part of the Friendship Heights Sector Plan. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Kaplan, second.
All in favor? I would like to take roll call, so yay for supporting, nay for not supporting, starting with Commissioner Kaplan.
Commissioner Kaplan, yay.
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 Commissioner Dominiani, yay.
Commissioner Nasser, yay.
Chair Haynes, yay. So we have overwhelming support for recommendation of the Reynolds House to the Planning Board and County Council. Thank you all for coming out, and have a good evening. Next on our agenda, we have the minutes from the May 13th, 2026 meeting. Has anyone read and confirmed those meeting minutes?
This is Commissioner Dominiani. I read the meeting minutes from May 13th, and I would move that we approve them because they look correct to my eye.
Do I have a second?
Commissioner Kaplan, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. So the minutes of May 13, 26 are approved.
Was that all 6? All 6? Yes, I didn't miss anybody. Thank you.
The next item, staff items. Do we have any staff items?
No staff items, Mr. Chair.
Do we have any commission items? I don't believe so. With that, I adjourn the meeting.